I just realized I was muted. Hi. Where's all my stuff? Come back. Oh, I forgot to open VTube Studio on my computer. Hope you guys are doing good here. I'll spawn in a second. Just give me a moment. Hope you guys are hanging up well. Hope you're doing okay. There we are. Oh, you can see the little like cute VTube Studio guy flying in the corner too. Goodbye. Hello, hello. Hope you're all doing well. Today we're gonna play some Minecraft. We're just gonna be having like a cozy little chatting stream. I feel like I have been ruminating a lot in the past day or two. And so I kind of just wanted to, like, I don't know, boot up a new world and just yap everything away for a little bit. Oh. Bro, how did I manage to walk into a hole within 1 second of starting the game? Yeah, I don't know. I've had a very full mind since last night for reasons that many can probably imagine. Among a couple of reasons, and so I mostly just wanted to kind of hop on and talk. Whoa, you can find like fallen over trees? That's kind of cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to sort of give myself a space to vent my thoughts out into the universe a little bit. I feel like it's a very healing process for me. But yeah, I don't know. I've been thinking about a lot of stuff. Of course, for one, my new original. I finally put the waiting room up today. It's a huge undertaking for me. You know, it's been at the forefront of my mind, and a project that I have been working on for over half a year at this point. It's been very long in the making, and so obviously it's been like a very emotional moment for me to finally finish that song and kind of make the final preparations to put it out into the world. And it was a really special experience for me in a lot of ways. I feel like, you know, I ended up taking on a lot more than I initially expected in order to make Superstar TWI'DOL happen as a song and a project. So to finally like see my baby like materialize into something, you know what I mean? To take this song that I've been working on for literally like half a year, you know, like half of my VTuber career almost has been going on while I've been working on this singular project. So to see it finally, you know, all the way through, to have it be done, be ready, is it was a very nerve-wracking experience in a way that I haven't experienced kind of since I put out Starfinder, I would say. You know, I remember that was obviously a really vulnerable moment for me, putting out that EP, and you know, I had no idea how people were going to perceive my work there, and I really had to sort of go out on a limb without the safety nets for the first time in quite some time when I made Starfinder, and not be afraid to try something different and use it more so for my own like needs, to, you know, be an outlet for myself, releasing original music like that. But, you know, Starfinder was kind of different because it was it was all me, right? Like there were obviously the people that made the instrumentals, but I just leased them. It's not like it was, you know, my song was their song too. It was just their beat and anybody could pick it up and use it, right? TWI'DOL, Superstar TWI'DOL was different because it was like I got a producer to work with me for the first time, and I got a team orders of magnitude larger than anything I've ever done before. Like I've never had somebody else make me a music video before. You know, I'll get like one artist to do like a singular little piece with a couple variations maybe, and that's my video, right? But this time around I had a team of like 6 artists, a music video person, and you know, obviously Oksu is the producer for everything. And I just remember like yesterday, you know, after almost half a year, you know, after a lot of delays, after so much like work behind the scenes on my end, you know, I finally had this ready. And before I was ready to like put the premiere out into the world and like leave it for everybody else to see, I was like, I feel like I owe it to Oksu to show them sort of before it goes out there, you know, with their name on this song as like the producer for it, you know, like what I made. And I was genuinely so nervous. It was the most nervous I've been in such a long time because I had no idea if they would like what I made or not. That was the scariest part for me. Is you know, I remember in like the infancy of the project, like half a year ago, when, you know, we were just sort of like really early hypothesizing the song, and you know, like Oksu would send me like a work in progress for the instrumental, and I would send him back like a work in progress for like a very early version of like some of the melodies and stuff, right? There was a part that, you know, I wrote it and I sent it, and you know, while we were kind of like ping-ponging various feedbacks and stuff, you know, he kind of suggested like a different top line as an idea, and I don't think that it was that personal of a suggestion. You know, I don't think it was like oh, this is bad. It was just another idea, right? But at the time, you know, I never actually changed it from that. I ended up feeling like I liked my intuition and what I came up with there, and I expanded on it throughout the song, right? In a way that he wouldn't have been able to see at the time. And so when I sent that final version to him yesterday, you know, it was like, I have no idea if he's gonna like this song, you know, if it's gonna be up to his standard. And I was so scared. So, you know, literally last night I sent it, and I sent like a long message and whatnot, and I remember I saw that they responded, and I literally I saw the notification, and I just kind of sat there for like a half hour, like readying myself to click it and like actually see what they thought. I was so nervous. It takes me back to the only other time that I've ever been in that kind of like state that I can like vividly remember, which was the one time that I've ever like confessed to a girl. It was on accident. What I had done is I didn't realize that when you I'd like recently gotten like an Apple phone for the first time, and I didn't realize that when you send a voice message, you don't get to like confirm like if you want to send it or not. It just sends. So like I like rambled through it, and I was like, okay, I can like sort of refine how I said this a little bit, and then I'll send them a message. And then it just went through, and I was like, ugh! Like my soul left my body. In that moment, my soul left my body, and I felt just so nervous. I remember I remember like trying to trying to lay under my covers, like hiding from reality for like 40 minutes, like please fall asleep, please fall asleep, just let this be tomorrow's issue. I don't want to look at my phone right now. I was so unbelievably scared of like facing it that I was just completely cowering from everything. And I felt like yesterday it like really took me back to that moment when I was like waiting to see what my producer thought of my song. And it was like such a unbelievably massive weight off of my shoulders to know that they liked it. So at least it's improved in that way. But man, it was something to go back to yesterday, man. Seriously. Also, hello Chainik. Konbanwa Kirin-san, hello. And hello Lonesome Nugget. Hope you guys are doing good. Sorry, I was just kind of in my ramble. Today's probably gonna be one of those days. But yeah, I mean, finally announcing my original song is very exciting, although admittedly it was a lot to process yesterday, and I think it was a lot to have that and also the Gura announcement yesterday. I feel like most of you guys probably would have seen it, just because I mean, I don't know, if you watch me, you probably follow the VTuber sphere enough to have seen the stuff with Gura. You know, for anybody who doesn't know, Gargura, like biggest VTuber ever, announced yesterday that she's gonna graduate in 2 weeks. The what now? Oh, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It's been like so everywhere on every platform that I use that I haven't been able to like look away from it in a lot of ways. But yeah, it got announced yesterday. I feel like in a lot of ways it's a long time coming, right? But it really is like the end of an era, you know. And I watched like so many of my friends in the VTubing sphere as well kind of come together and appreciate everything after that announcement too, right? Like it really is the end of an era in a lot of ways, you know. A lot of your Oshis are probably Gura. It really is, you know, a monumentally large influence, and it's crazy to see something like that, you know. We all know that it would come to an end at some point, especially with Gura, you know. Like Gura has kind of been she hasn't been the most around for a while, right? But it doesn't really change the fact that it still hits you like a freight train when you finally like hear it in the news. But I feel like in a lot of ways the announcement was really kind of like a good thing, and it's sad to me that in some ways there are a lot of people out there kind of misconstruing it right now. There's a lot of people who really misunderstand the situation, I think, and it's kind of a shame in a lot of ways, because I think that there's such a beautiful story underneath of everything that a lot of people kind of try and simplify to things that don't do it the justice that, you know, first of all, like Gura herself's like monumental like efforts towards the industry is, but also just what entertainers and people like us go through, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen a lot of people get really upset seeing just another graduation in general, and, you know, them saying like, oh, you know, I had disagreements with management and whatever, right? And in a lot of ways, like, you can take the more realistic angle that it's like, yes, you know, disagreeing with management basically means everything, and we don't want anybody to be legally not amicable, so we're gonna leave it at that to the public eye, because, you know, they just can't talk about it, right? But a lot of people sort of like fixate on this so much, and like the culture of everything, but in reality, like, she's been struggling for a long time, you know. Even just in her announcement alone, I found it almost disheartening how... Sorry, wait, I want a different song than this. This song doesn't feel right. I like Mice and Venus, but no. Wait, sorry, I have like a playlist going through. What's this one? This is the iconic one, right? This is fine. Yeah, okay. I feel like a lot of people paid so much attention to like the continuing trend of Hollow members leaving because of management or like the change of the culture or something, but you know, Gura in that announcement, you know, she was visibly shaken and was talking about, you know, severe anxiety issues and like having an eating disorder where she couldn't eat some days. And I haven't seen hardly anybody talking about those struggles and how difficult things must have been on her end for so long, because, you know, I personally have struggled in my life a lot with severe anxiety disorder and eating disorder. These are both things that plagued my life for years and years, and everybody's story is different. In a lot of ways, for me, my life was really terrible for a long time, and I really couldn't do much of anything in a lot of ways. You know, I had a time in my life where I was forced to drop out of school because every day that I went in, I would get such severe anxiety attacks that I had to go home. And, you know, at a point, you know, my dad scared the life out of me because he was like, if you keep not going to school, you know, the truancy officers are going to come and they're going to take you away from me, which was not true, but he thought it was. And at the time I believed that, and that was the scariest thing anyone's ever told me. And, you know, I experienced this like horrible bouts of anxiety and, you know, being so out of control of your own life that you feel like you can't do anything. You don't feel like yourself anymore at times. And, you know, it led a lot of the time, it's a lot deeper than it seems too, because when you compound these issues, right? Like you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right, you're stressed all the time, you don't have energy because you're not eating right, you're not sleeping right. These things usually, you know, they can spiral out to a lot of other things. You know, I had terrible depression. I was missing like half of my days, even when the anxiety was gone. I couldn't bring myself to get out of my bed, and it's very terrible. And, you know, in a lot of ways, this kind of news was so conflicting for me because Hollow Myth as a group, like seeing Hololive EN come to fruition was like a wake-up call in my life that there was something out there for me. It honestly pulled me out of my issues. It is the reason that I am not absolutely miserable and lost today. But like I said, you know, everybody's story is different, and I think that in the same way that having a creative outlet like that can be soul healing and can bring purpose back into your life, it can also be incredibly anxiety inducing to have like all of these people watching what you're doing and putting these expectations on you. You know, it can build this like imposter syndrome to be really bad. And in a lot of ways, something that I've consistently like experienced in my life, and everybody who I've ever known who's had bad anxiety problems has experienced too, is the longer you wait, the heavier the weight on your shoulder gets, you know, you like keep kicking the stone down the road because you don't want to like upset people. You don't want to disappoint people. You don't want to face everything. But it means that as this like burden on your shoulders gets larger and larger and you have so much to get off of your chest, it's like more and more of like a heavy thing to admit to other people what you've been needing to say that whole time, right? It just the pressure piles higher and higher. And so ultimately, like seeing somebody who's pretty much the goat of like VTubing in a lot of ways announce that they're quitting is like devastating news, and a lot of people will spin it to say that, you know, the company is bad, or, you know, like that it's, you know, not, it's not what, you know, they're not seeing it for what it is. It's kind of sad to me because at the end of the day, you know, everybody's path to happiness looks different, and I think that some people just need to get away. they need to take a serious change to solve their own unhappiness, right? I think there's a study that I've seen cited by like Dr. K or something that talks about how the commonality of a quarter life crisis, like a half-life crisis, but in the first quarter instead, has gone up so drastically, and they've actually like scientifically like studied and figured out how these like, you know, just vicious bouts of unhappiness, why they happen to people, and more importantly, like how you can solve them. And one of the biggest things that consistently comes up is an environmental change, like just completely changing the environment that you exist in. You know, physically, it can mean like moving away from where you live, but, or, you know, if it's, you know, if your trauma is school related, maybe it's leaving school. If it's work related, it can mean leaving work, right? So for these people like VTubers, where, you know, you're going through so much in the public eye in front of all these people, you know, and in a lot of ways, it's like you want to make all of these people happy, and you don't want them to face the tougher side of things, because that's oftentimes why we get inspired to become entertainers in the first place. Is like, you know, most of your favorite entertainers, they have a really dark past, and something lifted them out of that, and they felt like they wanted to pay that forward. They wanted to make somebody else smile and laugh and get away from their problems in the same way that, you know, somebody else once did for them, right? That's a lot of the times where it stems from. And unfortunately, sometimes doing that means that you feel like you have to put other people's happiness and well-being over your own. You know, it's like, it doesn't matter if my body is falling apart and my voice is going hoarse and I've lost the feeling of why I'm doing this anymore, and I'm scared to face these people, and I don't feel like myself, you know. After a point, you just have to put the smile on and you know, walk forward for these people and, you know, do your job, right? But at the end of the day, every career's got to end. Everybody at some point, you know, most people's careers don't last them for their entire life, and especially not something so taxing, right? But a lot of the time people neglect to think about the harder side of it and just kind of talk about it under like such general pretenses, when, you know, it's, every story is so deeply personal and intimate. I feel like it's such a waste to their legacy, you know. Like Gura, I have no idea what Gura's backstory is in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, you know, she was just another funny member who would, you know, I think in a lot of ways inspire so many people, because she was just so silly and human and, you know, not... I think a lot of the magic of what Myth was is that they came from an era of Hololive before the VTuber industry was so idly, you know, like there was inspirations, but it was like, we'll do a song here and there, not like we're gonna have concerts and, you know, new outfits and merch drops and like all of this crazy stuff that, you know, you're doing dance lessons now and vocal lessons and, you know, working with so many people on all these projects. It can be so much, right? And in the same way that that can be so amazingly beautiful and like you have so much opportunity at your fingertips, it's also a lot. Like it's crazy to presume that these people will want to do it forever and they'll just permanently have more ideas, more and more, right? A lot of them had no idea what they were signing up for back then and just had to learn to kind of roll with the punches and adapt to this new like lifestyle, right? And I think a lot of people miss that, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people look at this announcement and they're like, you know, things have gotten so bad in the past couple years or whatever, and they try and externalize everything to where I think at the end of the day, Gura had an insane career. She did so much despite honestly stepping away a lot of times, and she created a legacy that probably no one will ever replicate, you know what I mean? And I think that's okay. I think it's okay to want to focus on other things. I think that part of her healing, because, you know, with all of the, you know, a lot of the best things in life come from the worst things in life. A lot of your happiest memories will be surrounded by your worst trauma, and a lot of the time it can be so grueling to decide, like, you know, I think that I can be happier and solve these problems if I walk away from the source of some of the most intense, greatest emotions I've ever felt, because it's also the source of some of the most horrible, like, painfully intense emotions you've ever felt. It's just like, nobody can crank everything to 150 forever. We need homeostasis. Even just staying at 100 isn't reasonable, you know? At the end of the day, we need balance. A lot of the time, people who get into this kind of industry, it's like things have been so awful for so long that they are willing to look over everything and just try and be really happy for a while and just experience a really rich, like, full few years. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's beautiful when people stay longer and they're, like, really around for, like, even decades is amazing. And I think we'll come to see a lot of people who do, who, you know, really adapt to the lifestyle. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of beauty in an end of an era. And I think Gura's been through a lot, clearly. A lot that a lot of people aren't ready to actually sort of accept. And I hope, you know, as somebody who also dealt with just crippling anxiety and, you know, eating disorders for years and years, and it tore my life apart for so long, I honestly hope that the next chapter of her life is nothing but happiness, and she can, you know, get away from all the things that are causing her these, like, you know, mental issues, and just be so successful in whatever she goes to next. Because I feel like these people are just so strong. That's something I love about, like, the VTuber like sphere, is that the people who rise to the top are so strong, man. They're so inspiring. And I think that a lot of the time we undermine how just because sometimes the issues can come after the fact in life, you know, in spite of all of the amazing things you're doing, and not, you know, before all the amazing things you're doing. Sometimes hard things happen to people, you know, even though they, you know, like, really poured themselves into something. You know, usually that compromise doesn't last forever, right? You have to pay up in one way or another someday. And I think that Gura did plenty. So I hope that wherever she goes next with her life, whether it's, you know, independent creation or just getting off of the internet entirely. Whatever kind of change she feels like is the right route for her. I hope that everything goes well for her, you know? But it was really a lot to see that, you know, announcement come out on the same day that I was like finally finishing this song that I've done for like the past half a year. Cause it really made me stop and reflect for a minute on the fact that it's like, you know, this is everything I've been working towards for the past 5 years almost. You know, I say that, and it's not like I've been Twi for 5 years, and it's not that I was another VTuber before that point, but just before that, you know, when I decided that I was gonna quit school, when I decided that I was gonna start working to save money so that I could become Twi, right? When I decided I wanted to do all of these music projects and start streaming and, you know, just this whole undertaking, right? It's like some of these people that inspired me have been here for a few years now, and it's not uncommon to see these people wear themselves out, you know, absolutely just ragged, and, you know, like they're just, you know, they work themselves to a point of destruction almost, you know. It's insane what people in this industry are willing to do for their dreams, and I see myself a lot in it too, despite how new I am, and it makes you think, like, how long do I have? You know, will I achieve a lot of my dreams before some of the greats that inspired me the most are gone? And is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? You know, it's not like I want them to to stick around and wait for me, even though they're struggling and what they need is change, right? But it's just like a harrowing experience, you know, like nobody's here forever, and it's a lot to think about my future and, you know, the people that inspire me the most and how it, you know, it'll affect them, and just the landscape of everything, you know. It feels a lot more real after a combination of events like that, you know, where you see something so like major and happy in your own career, and something so harrowing and like somber in the field happen like back to back like that. It kind of makes you so much more like acutely aware of like how alive and present you are in that moment, in that space. And I kind of just spent a lot of time ruminating about that over the past like day, and it was very much an interesting experience. Also, hello TND, hello virtual, hope you guys are doing good. Things change whether you like it or not. There are things you don't want to change, but it'll keep them, you can keep them the same forever. Yeah, I mean, or you can't keep them the same forever. Yeah, I mean, that's really the truth of it, you know, is at the end of the day, like, you know, we're not machines, right? You gotta, no matter how perfect the thing that you finally found, you know, you could find your calling, and for some people it really does last a lifetime, but for it to last a lifetime, it has to, you know, take new shapes and forms over your life, right? It can't stay truly the same forever, and you gotta respect when people have to step away to find themselves anew, and, you know, reinvent themselves in the same way that they did for you to come to know and love them, right? In a lot of ways, people need space for that kind of stuff. No problem, Shanik. Take care. Yeah, exactly. Like Gura's story is so interesting because she really did just get catapulted overnight, and it's not like she was like a small nobody before she joined Hololive, but it's one of those interesting cases where like she was big, but not as a VTuber, not as an idol. You know what I mean? Like it was very, very different. It was almost like an old school kind of YouTube popularity in a lot of ways. And so to immediately have like this new like environment and expectations like flipped all onto you at once, while surrounded by people that like grinded for years to be in a position similar to you even is it's a lot of pressure, right? It's a lot of pressure both externally and internally, I think, and it changes things a lot. I agree with the perspective of like VTuber, you know, it's so blessed to be able to like follow VTubers and support them and just like doing whatever makes them happy and inspired and, you know, passionate, but also, you know, to understand that like, you know, they're people behind everything, and above all else, like, why are you supporting them if not because you want them to be happy anyway, right? Whatever is the best move for them, I accept it with a whole heart, and I support them through and through, right? Like, in a lot of ways, I think I already felt that way before I was a VTuber too, but you really feel it so much more once you're like in it yourself, I guess, right? Once you have some experience under your belt, once you've lived, you know, once you've walked the walk a little bit. It's very interesting in a lot of ways, just because, you know, like, for me, I think that even though I used to dabble with like YouTube and streaming and stuff like that long before I was a VTuber, like probably over 10 years at this point, if not very close. And there's something about this community, man. There's something beautiful about how like open and expressive, I think, not even just within the VTuber community, but in the larger sphere as a whole, people have like become since VTubing really started to take off. Like, I feel like it's one of the main things that is facilitating it being cool to like try again and care about yourself and like follow your passions in life and, you know, chase your own happiness and your own peace and stuff like that. I feel like VTubing is such a pure embodiment of that. It's so beautiful, man. It's so inspiring because, you know, there were so many years where, you know, I felt like I had kind of nothing going in my life, but, you know, for a brief moment in time, like a game or like a video style or something, you know, like something would speak to me and I would be really motivated for like a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, but nothing would really stick because, you know, for the longest time, it kind of felt like you gotta pick a camp, you know, you gotta pick a group and, you know, follow the formula of other people's success. And it's not like VTubing doesn't necessarily also do that, but it just feels so much more individualized and like intimately creative that, you know, it just hits for me. I don't know, man. Or like, it's also the fact that it's so, it aligned with my interests in a way that I never thought would ever happen to me, ever. Like, I saw VTubers before they were a thing in the West, you know. I really got pulled in when Myth debuted, but I was, you know, even Hololive was like on my radar before they, you know, English VTubers were really a thing, right? And I still remember like sort of looking at it and being like, this is so cool, man. Like, this is awesome, because at the time, you know, I had almost nothing good going on in my life, but one of my main escapes that whole like sort of darker period of my life was playing rhythm games. Me and my friends would play rhythm games, and there was like all of this cool music that a lot of it came out of Japan, a lot of it was in Japanese, and unlike a lot of people, you know, I did get into anime, and I do still love anime. But I think the biggest driving factor in my interest in like Japanese culture and eventually like VTuber culture and stuff like that was the music, and not like anime. Like, you know, I'm not like the other weebs, guys. I'm different. But seriously, like, seeing VTubers come to the West and like all of these people that were into like Japanese net culture and like the music, seeing some of my favorite music producers working with like random Western artists that like seemingly popped out of nowhere and didn't have like the biggest history with music and stuff like that. And seeing these people basically just take ideas and like boundaries that felt like they should exist and just ignoring them and just doing whatever seemed cool. It was like this wake up moment in my life. Like, yo, like agency is out there. Like you can like take your fate into your hands a lot more than you think you can. You can, you know, if you just basically tune out all of the people that are so like worried about doing everything perfectly and having like an 100% safe choice that they never try anything hard, like you can seriously do a lot more than you'd ever think. You know, for the longest time, I was very much like a lot of other people to where, you know, it feels like you gotta find the perfect opening. You know, even when I wanted to become a VTuber, it's like I gotta plan out my debut and study all of these big, you know, corporate people on how to do this, and I gotta start learning to sing. I gotta learn Japanese. I gotta you know, learn how to edit videos and everything, and you know, I gotta take up a kayfabe and whatever, right? Different times. But in a lot of ways, you know, nothing in life is certain anymore, bro. Being a VTuber is like really hard in a lot of ways, and you know, I have friends who, you know, when I did things like start VTubing or like put out a song for the first time, they're like, I could never do that. I don't know how you could, you know, like be so vulnerable and, you know, whatever, right? But for me, having a regular job is harder. Like, you know, you have to go through a lot of stuff to really like make things on your own. But I still remember when I tried to get a seasonal job just to save some extra money for my projects, and I kid you not, I applied for 100 jobs and I got one interview that went nowhere. One singular interview. And, you know, the stories of people who, like, go to school and get a degree and not be able to find anything even in spite of that, it's more and more common. Like, I feel like we're entering a point in time in the world where it's like nothing is certain anymore. You just pick whatever is the coolest hard thing that seems interesting to you and just run with it. Don't worry about, like, how you're gonna make it work right away. Don't worry about the people who are, you know, like doubters on if it's gonna be possible for you, because even the safe boring stuff isn't even like that safe anymore nowadays. You have to actually like take some risks to get opportunity to put your foot in the door and like start doing anything anymore. It's hard out here. It's hard out here no matter what it is that you want to do. So the best thing that you can do is at least pick something difficult that makes you feel fulfilled. Pick something difficult that gives you a reason to roll out of your bed in the morning. Because, you know, like, you never know. Nothing, you know, it doesn't have to last forever. In a lot of ways, I think one of the most harrowing experiences in my life was back before I started being a VTuber, but like when I finally kind of accepted that I was gonna do it. I was gonna do the thing, right? Up until that point, I had nothing in my life. Genuinely, I had nothing I was living for. I was living on autopilot like a zombie every day. I had no semblance of a plan for my future. Nothing felt interesting to me. I was super depressed, right? This is a long time ago. I'm good now, but I was really depressed, right? And I remember at that time deciding to finally like allow myself to try VTubing seriously was so freeing, because I told myself, like, if I give myself 5 or 10 years and this VTubing stuff doesn't work out anyway, that can be the end of my life. And it doesn't matter if I have nothing else. I can just try this for a while, and if it doesn't work out, it's fine. And now that I've done it, now that I have these experiences, I don't know how I ever was in such a twisted state of mind to think that way. Because if this didn't work out, I would just find something else. Like, there's nothing that is permanent in life. But in the same vein, we feel like things matter so much in the moment. Things matter so much at any given time. It has to be perfect. It was like I was talking about before when, you know, you have this anxiety and it like builds higher and higher until you finally get it off of your chest, right? The longer you wait, the more it like really just gets heavier and heavier, right? And that's why I feel like, you know, whatever feels right is just, that's just how you gotta operate. It doesn't matter what people think. It doesn't matter, you know, whether it's you being a nobody and deciding that you want to make something for yourself, or whether it's just deciding that there's like a community that you've always wanted to become a part of and finding a way to integrate in that, or whether it's getting out of a situation that, you know, you feel like you have this responsibility to, but it's difficult and, you know, your heart is somewhere else, whatever it may be, right? I think that it's so important now more than ever to just like allow yourself that space, allow yourself that healing, like allow yourself to be yourself. You know, don't get so caught up in like this identity that you create for yourself that you have to uphold to all of these people. Like just worry about you and just, you know, make whatever decision is the one that makes your heart feel full. And that's kind of a really long tangential wraparound to how I feel about the whole like Ngura situation and all the people who want to simplify it to like, oh, management bad, they're overworking the talents, blah blah, whatever. It's like, for some people, you know, having those opportunities is all you could ever dream of. I know for me it is. It's what made me stop wanting to rot away in my bed every day of my life. But also, like, I don't think that if I was in that situation that I would stay there for like 30 years and spend the rest of my life doing projects and merch drops and everything. Like, everything has a limit. And at a certain point, it's not the best choice for somebody anymore. And you can't make the decision for other people. You know what I mean? I had a conversation when I was on vacation a couple weeks ago with my cousin, who is, in a lot of ways, you know, we grew up and we get along so well. He's like a brother to me. He's the brother I never had because I grew up an only child, okay? Like, I have a stepsister now, but he was the brother I never had, right? And we had so much in common and yet so much different because our parents were so different. And, you know, I went from being the quiet kid with good grades to the dude who dropped out and nobody in the family knows what's going on. And, you know, I'm just kind of in my own thing, you know, in my own lane, doing my own thing. He was always a good student, did his APs, you know, went to university. He's, you know, doing like an apprenticeship for engineering. He's going to go and be an engineer and have, you know, move out with his girlfriend and have conventionally a really stable, good life. But he has a lot of, you know, just like anybody else, he's got vices too, right? And I don't think that he's doing the wrong thing. I think that he's going to be happy, but at the end of the day, like, you know, he has a lot more things that other people sort of are really quick to kind of like put on those shoes, like, sort of. It's like they're designer shoes, you know what I mean? You put yourself in those shoes and you kind of look past anything that's wrong with them. And you're like, wow, these are so nice, man. These are some great, you know, this is a great life you've got here. And you can internalize that and like sort of feel like you have to adopt this identity of like importance and, you know, like stability and stuff, like other people are seeing you that way. And so my cousin, you know, we had a couple drinks at a bar and he was talking to me and he's like, you know, there's a lot of people in the family that are like shit talking you, man. Like, you know, they want you, you know, they're glad that you're, you know, you're happy and you're doing your own thing, but they don't understand. I have to be the one to try and explain it to them. And I told him, like, man, I appreciate that a lot, but you don't have to explain anything to them. Like, I don't care what they think. I'm doing what makes me happy, and like, they can accept that or they can't, and that's fine. Like, you know, I have my own boundaries that I can stand for, because he's kind of protective, right? he's kind of protective of me at times. And so, you know, he wants them to see me in a good light, and he wants to vouch for me, and I'm like, I love that, but also I can you know, protect my own boundaries. I can stand for myself, and you don't have to worry so much about that, you know. I kind of let go of trying to hold up this identity of like external validation and stuff a long time ago. You know, I'd much rather be my own person and have a whole bunch of people that doubt me, as long as I have a few people in my corner who support me. You know, as long as you have some people that support you, you can just tune out everybody who's trying to bring bad vibes into your mix, bro. You can just tune them all out. It doesn't matter. Just keep the people around who push you towards where you want to be, and don't waste your energy on all that other noise. That's how I feel about all of that, you know? With calm hearts and an open mind, respect people's decisions. Absolutely. That's a great way to put it. You have to always, you know, I think a lot of people, what it is they don't think a step deeper. You know what I mean? It's like they kind of lack the maybe life experience. Like, I never judge people who themselves are like too judgy and too quick to make assumptions about other people's situation and try and like explain it off in a way that kind of discredits that person's experience. Because everybody, you know, I like the sort of philosophy that people are a product of their environment, but not in the sense that like you can't do anything about life, you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you know, you're born into whatever and that's life, you know, that's who you're gonna be. But it's sort of like we all have a different starting point, right? Everybody is who they are for a reason. You know, they experience things growing up, you know, with the people who are their role models and the circumstances, the opportunities they have access to, the opportunities they don't have access to, you know, the people and things that they compare themselves to in their environment growing up that form their like value system and how they look at the world, right? Like, these are all things that you can spend your whole life listening to other people and taking in their insight and still never see it from their eyes. You'll never know what it's like to live as me, and I'll never know what it's like to live as you, because we just come from a fundamentally different spot. But you can still learn so much and like appreciate the things in your life from a different lens when you really try and immerse yourself as deeply as you can manage into somebody else's story and draw those parallels. I feel like that's what being human is about, bro. Is like looking at how, you know, no matter how different we are, there's that like level of common ground. There's that common denominator that can be, you know, shared in our experiences, even if fundamentally we come from different environments. I think that's so beautiful. Like, I think an example that was really inspiring to me is just earlier today and like a little bit last night, I was watching, there's a full interview that came out, I think like a year ago or something, from the Immune Deficiency Foundation with Iron Mouse, talking about her story and like her life growing up before she was a VTuber and how everything changed for her, and, you know, what her life was and is like, and why she tries to raise so much money for IDF and like get people to donate plasma and stuff like that. And even though I've never dealt with chronic illness in my life, I think that in a lot of ways, it resonates with me so much, her story, because, you know, I come from a life where I had mental health issues that were so debilitating that I felt, you know, like physically impaired. Like, there were things in my life that just didn't seem possible to me. And it was like, I think she had a point where she was like, I felt like life was happening to me and not like I was living it. And I totally understood that feeling when I heard it, right? And, you know, it makes me think about how, you know, like, if I ever have the platform for it one day, I would love to do a lot of charity work around, like, providing people more resources to like therapy and like making knowledge around things like anxiety and depression and, you know, like eating disorders and ADHD, autism, whatever under the sun, one of my many illnesses that I live my life with day to day. You know, to share that perspective and allow people, you know, to realize, like, you know, nobody's ever gone through it exactly the way you have, but plenty of people have, you know, at least know the feeling, and you're not alone in that. And there are lots of people who can help you, and there's a happiness out there for you. There's a light somewhere at the end of the seemingly never-ending dark tunnel. You know, you just have to stick to it, right? Because sometimes, you know, it always feels so cheesy to say stuff like that, because when you're in it, it's like you don't even know yet how it'll ever solve, right? It's like, imagine if I told you to think of a new color. Your brain's gonna like implode, because it's like, how can I think of a new color? Like, the colors are just colors. That's what they are. Like, I can't just create a new color, right? That's not a thing that you could do. I don't care if you've experienced like trauma that you can pull from or not, in the same way that I have. If I asked you to come up with a new color right now and explain it, that's just not a thing that your brain is capable of, right? And so that's why, right? When I said earlier, you know, there's a study about how, like, when people go through like a quarter life crisis or whatever, and one of the main important like scientifically observed steps on like how do you get out of that is physical environment change, right? It's because in your current set of circumstances, you know, some of it is mental. Like, a lot of mental health issues stem from how you perceive the world and your situation that you're in. But some of it's real. Like, if you're like brain chemistry, or even if it's not like genetic, like if the way that you were brought up makes it so that you're resenting everything about school or your job or the people that you're living with or the fact that you're living alone or whatever it is, right? How do you imagine what a life without that is going to be like until it happens to you? You can't. It's like when you decide that you're going to go and study a certain subject in school for like 4 years, you can't like recite to me what the curriculum is going to be and how you're going to go through memorizing all of that, because if you knew that already, you just wouldn't need to go. You would have it. It'd be under your belt. But like, you have to go through and like take the surprises, you know, in stride. You have to take everything in as a new experience. And I think that there's like a lot of beauty in that once you come to realize it. But it's why it can feel so like unbelievably isolating to have some sort of like conditioning in life that makes you different or disadvantaged in a way that you don't know exactly how to deal with, because truthfully you can't know how it gets better until it happens to you. And it's not something where you can like, you know, there's things you can do that'll help, but some of it is just circumstance. Some of it is just waiting around for the right thing to happen. You know what I mean? When I was a VTuber, like new to it, I didn't have any social circle involving it at all. You know, I didn't have any VTuber friends, and I kind of spent the first few months just kind of like sitting in my own corner trying to figure out what the hell I was doing. And, you know, eventually, kind of on a whim, I decided to sign up for a charity concert, because it was, you know, like I said, I really believe in like wanting to pay back for like mental health related stuff. And I found through like a YouTube recommendation of Rita saying that she was like leaving Prism, and I didn't know like anything hardly about Prism Project, but I watched it and I started following her stuff, and I saw this concert and I was like, why not throw my hat in the ring? And I went and I made some friends there, and then I saw that she was doing a tournament and I entered it and I won it. And now like, I think that Rita and Shiny and Luz, which came out of all of that in terms of like being a friend group for me, despite the fact that I've known them for like less than a year, they are genuinely some of the most treasured friendships that I have and that I've ever made in this life. And I think that will stay that way for a really long time. And again, it's one of those things where it's like, there was no formula to know how that was going to happen. I would have never expected anything like that would be where it starts for me before I started. But, you know, a lot of the beauty is in the uncertainty. You just do whatever's coolest at any given time and have an open mind and an open heart and be ready when opportunity decides to present you something new to play with, you know, something new to chew on in life. I think no matter what it is that you're doing out there, the greatest thing that you can ever give yourself is the openness to embrace the unknown and just try things. Just try things without some sort of like ulterior like necessity to like do it right or get enough people to care, or, you know, do it like perfectly or fast or whatever. A lot of it is like, just do it. Appreciate the action. Appreciate the something that's there. Appreciate the soul of it. You know, it's like people always say things like it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But like, when you really live that way, it changes things, you know? Because I think in a lot of ways, people say that as like a hindsight thing once they've already kind of gotten onto this road. But in a lot of ways, like, you don't even need a destination to have a journey. Like, you know, sometimes when you go for a walk outside, you go for a walk because you need to go somewhere to do something. And sometimes you go for a walk just because you want to go for a walk. Like, you just want to move. You just want to get outside. And there's nowhere you're going. You're going to walk and look around, and when you're ready, you're going to come home and, you know, return to that kind of homeostasis and like balance point in your life. But you just want to get out and like leave that for a little bit, right? And I think that you can almost boil everything about life down to that simple interaction. Like, sometimes you have a specific place that you want to go. Sometimes you just want to stay home. And sometimes you just want to go out and just look around, see what's up. Try something out and like, don't think about it too much. You know what I mean? It feels so much more freeing to live your life that way, I feel like. Let me see. I'm so behind on chat. Sorry, I never said hello to Milo and Lionel. Hope you guys are doing good. I'm glad that you feel like you can relate with stuff, Lionel, and I'm glad that I can be like a source of comfort for people. Just know, you know, a lot of your favorites go through stuff too. And like, everybody's got a place in this world. It doesn't matter what you're going through, you know what I mean? In a lot of ways, I think you guys know the saying where it's like jack of all trades, master of none, but often better than master of one, or whatever. Where it's like, you know, it's kind of about like having a good combination of traits and skills, more so than like being the GOAT at one thing and one thing only, right? I think that in a lot of ways, your weaknesses and like the experiences that are really hard in your life formulate your biggest strengths. Like, they lead you to some of the greatest things. Like, I suffered so much in my younger years with like different conditions and stuff that I was talking about. But I'm really grateful that I experienced them because it taught me value in life. It was like, that's how your values shape, is you experience stuff that you like, and you also experience stuff where it's like, wow, this is like the worst ever. And that shapes you to be really good at living not like that. And living like anything other than that. And in a lot of ways, it's a good thing. And you can learn a lot from people who have the same or different experiences of like what they both value getting in life, but also not getting in life. You know what I mean? You have so much value, even if not for any of the skills or traits that you've acquired yet, just for like the skill and trait that you've acquired for living up until this point as you. Like, just existing as you is something that nobody else can do for you. And it's something that nobody else can do for anybody else either. There are important people to you in your life that are irreplaceable, you know, and even if you were to like stop talking to them and like find new people to talk with, it's not like they become the new X person. It's just a different person, right? You are always that for somebody else too. And never forget that. Never, never forget that. Is that, you know, the things that you know, have struggled with make you who you are. And even if that hasn't formulated into something tangible yet, it'll come. Your time will come. You just got to be patient. Gonna make me cry. This is, you know what? I'm being very vulnerable today because I was ruminating a lot just yesterday. Like I talked about this earlier, but seeing basically the biggest influence on at least Western VTubing maybe ever announce their retirement in the same day that I was like finally finishing my biggest project of my whole career, it made me like stop and think about my life again for the first time in a while. Like it made me really slow down in a way that I haven't for a hot minute, and I just kind of wanted to like vent that back out into the world, you know what I mean? Like take all the things that I've spent so many years thinking about and just share that. Put my heart on my sleeve for a minute. Cause I feel like part of it was seeing the Iron Mouse interview too. It was like, you know, I think there's so much beauty in vulnerability and being able to share your story. Like it really helps people so much more than you ever know. No matter who you are out there, like your words can change people in ways that you would never imagine. And it is, you know, it costs nothing to not be mean to people, and it also costs nothing to be kind and welcoming to people, and to share them that grace, and also like to let them get to know you a little bit as well, you know what I mean? To share yourself with them, because a lot of the time, you know, your genuineness can be worth so much more than an act of like politeness, you know. Like it's kind to hold the door open for somebody, but to make them feel seen through your own experiences can be so much more of a gesture, even if they never even knew you like that. You could be a stranger to somebody, not even just in like the like content creator viewer relationship, but like this could be like a random stranger that you just talk to on like out in the sidewalk or while you're at work one day or something. You have no idea. Like your words can do a lot for people, right? And I think it's so important to realize like every story is beautiful, and you should feel empowered to share your experience. The best things in life happen when you are vulnerable with other people and you give them that space to be the same. It lets you experience life so much more fully when you stop worrying about it. Like if you can feel secure enough in yourself that you don't have to worry about getting burned when you decide to open the space for somebody to share a real connection with you in that moment. Sometimes people will not be ready. Sometimes people will be, you know, dismissive. They might be scared. They might not want to connect with you. They might be actively mean to you because they might be projecting those kind of feelings out onto you. But for every one of those, you know, there's so many people that are just experiencing things that they're too scared or, you know, unsure of themselves to say. And you can learn so much from giving people that like platform to be themselves. Here's a cookie. Thank you. You know what's something I need to share? I need to share my cookie recipe with you guys. What do you guys think about my next baking stream being cookies? I remember I made such a mess out of my room. You guys have no idea when I made that cake, man. Like, I had like probably 20 or so different ingredients like strewn across my computer desk. I had like, you know, with my little phone or whatever. I think I had a picture of it somewhere, but it was such a mess to clean up. It was so much more like messy than if I just cooked in the kitchen. But at the same time, that was one of my favorite streams ever. That stream was so fun. That stream was honestly so fun. I definitely want to do like more streams where we're just like experiencing silly stuff together just for fun. Like I wanted to I was thinking about doing like an egg painting stream for Easter in like this weekend, you know, like I've never done it before growing up, but like that's a thing that people do, right? Where you get the eggs and you like paint them with different patterns and stuff. Now the main thing I still haven't looked up that I feel like I need to is like people don't be doing that with like eggs, right? Like real eggs? Maybe before, but like I don't know, bro. In this economy, there's got to be a workaround, right? There's got to be some like fake eggs or something. But I don't know. I think it could be fun. There's plastic eggs. That's what I was thinking. I was gonna say I'm pretty sure they have like plastic ones too. I would probably buy everything because I don't think I have like paint or anything either. But I think it would be fun. I probably will. Because I'm not gonna be. I think one of the things that I'm most sad about this weekend is I'm not gonna be there for the premiere of my music video. I might like sort of be there. I'm gonna try. Basically, it's my mom's birthday on Saturday. And so I was like, since I can't stream on Saturday anyway, I'll put the song out on Saturday so you guys have something, right? And so I'll probably like try and sneak away off to the bathroom or something and like watch the premiere on my phone or whatever. But I won't be able to like talk about it properly until Sunday. But you know, I think it would be really fun to like just have like a comfy little chatting stream because I want to be able to talk about the song and stuff as well the day after too. So I feel like it could be good. I've never gotten to like paint eggs before. I actually used to. When I was a kid, I used to be like such a hater of traditional arts. I would be so stuck up as a child, man. Like, what I would do back then is I just wouldn't like do anything that required me to like do traditional art at school when my teachers would ask. This is a long time ago. This is middle school when I was like 10. I remember there was one day where we had like a program where they had these like people that do painting classes come in, and they were having us like learn how to paint, and they would give us canvases and like sort of do exercises with us for painting, right? And I didn't want to do it, so I just didn't pay for the thing. You were supposed to pay like $2 or some piddly amount, whatever it was, right? And I just didn't pay because I was like, I don't want to do it. So I just won't pay, and then I don't have to do it. Easy, right? And then they like put me in anyway. They were like, it's not a big deal. You can still go in. Come on, right? Because it was like such a small amount. They were probably just planning on everybody paying it anyway. And I didn't want to. So I just sat there doing nothing. And I was like visibly annoyed. And eventually I just went and I sat out in the hallway because I would like verbally protest when they tried to get me to do it. I was like, no, I don't want to do a painting. This is stupid. I'm just gonna sit here because it's dumb. And then, you know, they were like, well, you want to go like sit out in the hallway? And I'm like, yes, actually, get me out of here. Thank you. I think the only time I ever got to see in anything was in art. And it was just because I didn't even want to do anything like half the time. But I feel like as I've gotten older, I've come to appreciate like doing artistic stuff, even if I'm bad at it. Like I'm not very good at like basically any form of traditional art, but I still enjoy it. Like, man, I'm excited to show you guys all the storyboards that I made for Superstar TWI'DOL's music video, because there's so many. I like hand sketched basically nearly everything that was a part of that music video before I passed it off to the artists to like let them do their thing, right? I really tried to bring it to life in my own hands first. And like, for anybody who hasn't seen yet, because like, I mean, I wouldn't expect you to go through and read the description of the music video premiere before it's out, or even in general. But But I had 6 different artists that were on the team for the music video. That's not even counting the person who actually edited the music video. That's just the people that did art. You know, all in all, it was a project of 8 people, not including me, which is 7 more than it's ever been before. It was by far the biggest, most special thing I've ever worked on. It was so emotional for me to see it actually come to fruition. And man, I don't know. It's just I'm very excited. You know, like I said earlier in stream, I was like really scared about if my producer was gonna like it, or like, you know, if the artists are gonna like it and everything, because, you know, it's not just my project, right? It's like I had so many people that were a part of bringing it to life. So I was like, I have to do it justice. You know, I spent probably close to 100 hours mixing it myself. You know, originally I was planning on like outsourcing the mixing too, but I ended up deciding to do it myself. And I was such a stickler with myself about it, man. I was like, it's gotta sound right. And I was really, really hard on myself with the mix. And I still remember, actually, while I was on vacation, I thought I pretty much had the final mix. And I played it on my cousin's car, because my cousin also likes doing music stuff, and he was showing me one of his songs, and I'm like, you know, I have something too. Let me put this on for a sec, right? And the mix sounded awful on the car speakers. I was like, oh my god, it is terribly balanced. Like, the vocal is so loud, you can't hear the harmonies at all. Like, I was listening to it, I was like, dude, the instant I'm home from my vacation, I have to boot it back up and go change things. And like, I kid you not, when I was like finalizing the music video and putting it together yesterday, I saved and exported like 6 or 7 minor update versions of the final project. Like, I want to show you guys a second. This is so silly. Wait. Let me pull this up. Just so you guys, I'm sure I'm going to be talking about this too when I like properly talk about the music video more. But let me find it. So I was doing a thing where with every like rendition, I would just like add to the length of the project file name, and we ended up with the full name being Superstar TWI'DOL actual final for real please I'm begging part 2.5 the sequel final season part 2 again Redux the second junior double triple whopper dot path. It just keeps going. It just keeps going forever. That is like gotta be the longest file name of any kind that I've ever seen. Because I just kept adding to it more and more. I was like, okay, surely I still like the start that it begins with actual final for real please I'm begging. Like, I remember doing that at the start because I thought it was just about done. And then I proceeded to have probably at least 15 more same renditions after that, dude. Yo, what's up, Jake? Yeah. Dude. But man, like, this is all to say, you know, I've been working on that original song for over half a year now. It's finally done. I think everybody on the team did an amazing job. You know, there were a lot of delays. The song was supposed to be for my anniversary back on March 7th, or realistically, I was going to do it on March 8th because I wanted it to be on a Saturday or whatever. But, it was supposed to come out over a month ago, but I decided instead of, you know, further rushing a bunch of people and having a, you know, like an absolute scramble to get anything, I was like, it's not really feasible. I'm just going to take the time that it needs. And man, I am really glad that I did. It's the, by far, you know, best music video I've ever had. The instrumental is amazing. The lyrics felt really like personal to me and my character and my story. And the mix, I think, is the best mix that I've probably ever done. You know, it's just, it was such like a monumental effort from everybody, it felt like. And it was such a cool process. Like, it'll be a long time before I do anything again. I spent so much money on that damn song, y'all. I will talk about it another time, but oh my god, my wallet, bro. Ah. But but like I had so much stuff, man. I had a background artist do like animated backgrounds for it. I had several people doing like character illustrations. I tried to get a lot of people from the community involved. Like, you guys see Lionel like around all the time. Lionel animated part of the music video. Calico, good friend around here, did illustrations. Tomako Mama, my model mama, did some of the art. Muru Muru is the first artist I ever worked with. They did the art for my first ever cover of Yoidore Shirazu over a year ago. They did the main illustration for the project. You know, there were a couple new artists that I brought on, but I really tried to encapsulate a lot of my journey up until this point. And I worked with so many people who were like so, you know, like important to me in the community and have like such a rich story into it. There's a lot of like inside stuff with the project that I felt like I was able to hopefully do everybody justice. And I'm so excited for everybody to see it, man. Woo! I'm so excited for people to finally see this project, bro. It's been so long. And there's like a little preview as well on the premiere, or like I put it on Twitter as well. So if you end up being curious, you can click into it and see like the first 20 seconds or something and get it in your head until it's out. This is the same No, it's a different Minecraft world. I just booted up something new and started running around. You guys notice I found cherry wood again? I love getting cherry wood. If I ever decide to like seriously use this world, at least I got some cool stuff in here now. Here, you can have this undyed bed. I'm gonna steal the yellow one. Yoink. Saw it immediately. Yeah, I was like, I remember, you know, I talked about this at like the very start of the stream, but I don't think barely anybody was there. I had this like really intense anxiety yesterday when I finished the song and like the music video and everything was done, right? It was finally ready. And I decided, I was like, before I put this out into the world, I want to send it to my music producer. I want them to listen to the song and see the music video. And, you know, even though it's kind of too late for me to change anything, I just felt like it was right. Because, you know, it's our song. Even if it's my song, it's our song. You know what I mean? They were the backbone of everything. You know, I wrote it because of how I felt listening to the instrumental that they made and everything, right? And, you know, we really worked together on the vision of that. And it really is like so what I wanted. It was like such a good testament to my roots musically and what got me into like sort of the like internet music sphere from like rhythm games and VTubers and everything. It like really fit everything. And I was so happy about it. So I was so scared to show the producer. I was like, what if they don't like it, man? I was like, I'm so nervous because I have not been able to really involve them in the songwriting process throughout a lot of it. You know, I had to get something together to the point where I could plan and storyboard the MV and then get all the artists going and everything. And at that point, it's kind of too late to turn around, right? So I was kind of like, trust the process, trust my gut, and, you know, everything will work out. But I was still nervous, like, what they would think, because it's very much like, you know, doing like a VTuber idol song for somebody as silly as me. Like, it's gonna be polarizing in some ways, right? You love it for how open and like just, you know, carefree and creative it is, or you think it's cringe, right? You know, at the end of the day, it's like a lot of things with the VTuber sphere. And so, you know, even though I would have, you know, happily released it no matter what they thought, and I was pretty sure they would like it, I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm very hard on myself too, you know what I mean? After you look at a project for like 100 hours, you start to lose the ability to like perceive for yourself if it's actually good or not. So I remember seeing, like, I sent it to them. I sent them like a really like personal message about it and like a thank you for everything and, you know, working on the project and making it possible. And I saw that they replied to me, And I just sat there and looked at the Discord notification for like 30 minutes. And I was like, I don't want to open that. I don't want to face it. I'm not ready. My heart's not ready yet. It took me back to like the only other time in my life that I felt that way was a few years ago. It's the only time I've ever asked a girl out in my entire life. I wanted to ask her out over a voice message because I didn't want to do it by text, but I was like not ready to do it in person. And so I'd like just gotten like an Apple phone for the first time, and I'd never used the voice message feature before. So I like sort of mumbled, you know, very sleepily and, you know, messily what I was gonna say, and I was like, okay, I'll just like, you know, retake that a little bit more eloquently, and, you know, it'll be fine, and then I'll send it. I was mustering up my courage, and then I hit the end of record button, and it just sent because I didn't realize it. But you don't like confirm if you want it to go or not. It's just like, okay, we're done here. That's the end of the recording, not like a cancel. Like it's you ended the recording. All right, we're sending. And it went through, and I was like, you know, like, no, what? And I still remember. I like hid under my bed like a child for like 40 minutes. I was like, please let me go to sleep. Let it be tomorrow me's problem. I don't want to look at my phone right now. My heart's not ready. I was just hiding from my phone. And, you know, it kind of took me back to that moment, actually. It was a very similar, like, vivid feeling of, like, you know, you're about to be judged by somebody whose opinion you care about, and you put yourself in a really vulnerable spot. It can be very, very nerve-wracking. It can be very spooky. And in both times, I guess, like, you know, everything ties together from what I said earlier. Like, it was building for a while, you know. Like, with that person, it's not like I liked them. The first point that I thought that, I was just like, hey, I like you, want to go out? Which is probably the healthy way to do things, but not what I did at the time. And, you know, in this case, it was like, it's not like I had the song and I was like showing them, you know, bit by bit as it came along. It was like, hey, so, you know, you gave me the instrumental and like I made the whole song in the MV. Like, it's done. I'm putting up the waiting room tomorrow. But like, what do you think though? Please like it, man. Please, please, please. Because, you know, it's too late for me to do anything. I've gone too far. I was in too deep. At that point, it was just about whether they like it or not. I couldn't do anything about that. I just had to put myself on the line and trust that what I did was going to be enough, right? Oh yeah, I'm super proud of the project. It's definitely, I think, like the highest quality piece of work I've ever made. My producer sent me the sweetest message about the song, man. He sent me the sweetest message. He was like, he said he loved it. I think it's okay to read this. I think it's fine to read this. I don't think they would feel offended about this at all, but they were like, this is actually my first time participating in a project like this. I love how a lot of people do their job at parts to make a huge masterpiece. It involves like all the work in such a harmonious way. Started with a single instrumental track and all the storyboard, lyrics, recordings you did, all the illustrations, animated, and much more. This is stunning. Thank you so much for this amazing experience. And it's like, oh, it's so sweet. It's such a sweet thing to say, man. Like, it meant so much to me. Because, you know, as much as for me, it's so nerve-wracking because, like, not only am, like, I the center of the project and, you know, a lot of the most important parts fall on me. I wrote the lyrics. I did, you know, I sung it. I mixed the vocals. You know, the audio is a huge aspect of a song. Like, that's, like, the most important aspect in a lot of ways. And, you know, I was kind of like, I need to make sure that, you know, this is good enough quality to do justice to all the other people on it. But, you know, for everybody else that I was coordinating, it's like, you know, they're just one piece. They just you know, contributed one bit, and yet like they're part of like a bigger thing, right? And even if this project, you know, like didn't take off or do well in the way that I would hope it does, I still think that something very special came out of it, and I think that everybody involved will be proud of what we made. I'm glad you liked the first part of the song. If you like the first part of the song, I think you'll like the whole part of the song. Because, yeah, I remember, like, I'm really glad that I got to do like the little idol chants and like get you guys on the recordings as well. That was so sweet to have. Um, because you know, like I put it in the description of the song, but I was like, you know, I've always called myself, you know, like my tagline has always been like out of this world virtual idol. But you know, in a lot of ways, I haven't done very much idling. If we're being for real, you know, like it depends on like your definition of idol. I don't really prescribe to the idea that you have to, you know, to be an idol, you have to be, you know, super perfect. You never swear. You gotta be like the perfect person all the time. I just think an idol is somebody who inspires people. You know what I mean? That's how I perceive it, right? And I feel like this really got to encapsulate my story and like the things that I've come to really appreciate and value as being Twi in the past like year. Cause I never actually did lore, but back when I debuted, I had lore written that I was gonna get like a manga panel or something done, and I never did. But it was really sad lore. The lore of Twi was a way that I vented my personal experiences into a caricature. And what it was is that I was like a castaway, like orphan from space, basically. Like I just spent like eternity floating in space doing nothing. And then eventually I land on Earth, and it's like I want to experience all these new things with people and like share that journey of like, you know, trying out new things and finding myself and, you know, encouraging people to like have that sort of childlike wonder and like whimsy to them, I suppose, in their day-to-day life that I felt like I didn't have for so long when I was just kind of floating along. And I never actually like, you know, really did much with that lore, but it was a really true way of how I came into it. And I think that despite kind of forgetting about it for a while, it did characterize like a lot of how I do things. And, you know, I've like learned and tried so many things since I started VTubing. Like I would have never thought that I would get into like audio engineering and drawing and, you know, tapping into like my baking again in new ways, and, you know, like trying a bunch of different types of games I normally wouldn't play, you know, really leaning into singing and songwriting more. Like there's so many things. There's so many things that I've been like trying out since I came back, and I kind of just I stopped having this idea of like trying to, you know, do things perfectly and like having this idea like, oh, I need to like make it in some way, like do one thing really good so that I can find people to cover my weaknesses. I was like, man, screw all that. I'm gonna just, if I want to do something, I'm gonna just figure out what I gotta do to do that, and then I'm gonna do it. You know what I mean? If I want to make a song, all right, let's figure out how we mix a song, and then we do it. You know, we wanna level it up. Okay, you know, like let's lease some instrumentals. Let's try writing, and then it's like, all right, we're ready. Let's like get a producer and like organize stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's one step at a time, very much with my journey. And it's very like emotional to me for that, because it all stems from how in a lot of ways I felt like I couldn't do anything for so long, and just kind of like changing that to be like, I can do anything. Like it doesn't matter if I have nothing, no experience, don't matter. We're gonna do it anyway. We're gonna figure it out, and, you know, just dream big, and what's like the verb for goal? I don't know. Set goals even bigger. Make dream and goal synonymous words. If you want something, stop just thinking about how it would be nice and like just try and do it. Like, why not? What's stopping you, right? That's how you like figure out what is like something that sounds cool versus something that like really speaks to your soul. You know what I mean? Is when you stop thinking about it, everything that you want as some like distant alternative reality, and you're more like, what if I did that like right now? Like, why am I not? How come I'm not doing that right now? I feel like that was a revolutionary like mental shift for me. But anyway, it is a very upbeat song. It's not that philosophical, but a lot of those kind of undertones are in the lyrics and like just in my story in general. And I hope that that you guys will listen to it and like it. You know, I feel like this song is really an embodiment of who I am. It's an embodiment of who I am and who I've become over the past few years and who I plan to keep being, you know what I mean? And so I think that it really beautifully, authentically has a lot of, you know, a lot of my future packed into it, a lot of my present, the people that I value, the things that I've come to love, and a lot of my past and my roots are represented in various ways too. And I'm just excited to really share my story like that, you know what I mean? I think that this song just like authentically communicates so much about me as a person and my life. And I hope that it reaches all of you and it inspires you to be your best self too. So sappy. So sappy today. Well, today is more or less meant to be a short one. I have some stuff, some people that I want to go see tonight. But thank you guys for giving me so much support always. I really needed this today, you know? Like, between processing, like, everything finally being done with my biggest project ever, and also, like, just sort of processing, like, the mortality of VTubing and, like, how fleeting everything can be, right? I feel like it was really healing today to just talk about life with everybody and just, I don't know, like the experiences, things that I'm grateful for. Tell the people in your life who you love that you love them. Give your homies a big hug. Give yourself a big hug. Everybody deserves a hug today. Thank you guys so much. I will be back on Friday night. We're going to do a new Elden Ring playthrough because I was feeling kind of like playing Elden Ring recently. And, you know, while I was on my vacation, you know, my cousin is a big, like, Souls-like advocate. He plays, like, all of them. So I was like, I kind of want to play Elden Ring again. So we're going to do that. I don't know if I'll finish the game, but we're going to have a good gaming night on Friday. And on Sunday, I'll do an Easter stream, which will be fun. We can have another, like, kind of chatting stream, kind of like today. Probably less sappy than today, but something kind of like that, you know? And I'll be back to streaming, of course, at my normal, like, 3 p.m. time slot, Eastern, pretty much every week now. Schedules will be soon, actually. I'll have, like, proper schedules soon. But it'll be Friday, Sunday, and then, of course, the song is coming out on Saturday, same time, 3 p.m. Please be there if you want, or just check it out whenever you have time. Give it a like if it means something to you. Give it a little boost. Give it a comment. But thank you guys so much. Take care of yourselves today and every day. Take care of yourselves every day, but especially today. Do something nice for yourself. And I'll see you guys on Friday, all right? Take care, everybody.